This week, join Michelle and Mason Harvey as they bravely share their extraordinary journey of fortitude, living life fully with Crohn's disease. Do not miss this episode.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Exceptional Stories and the People Who Live Them. Your host is Steve Dover, a special needs advocate and father of 2 special needs sons. This is a faith-based, in-depth conversation-styled podcast with and for parents of special needs children. This podcast will let you have a front row seat to hear how they do it, why they do it, and what you can learn from their experiences as they share their exceptional stories. Let's get started.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Exceptional Stories and the People Who Live Them. Today, we are privileged to host the incredible mother-son duo of Michelle and Mason Harvey. In 2020, Mason faced the unexpected challenge of a Crohn's disease diagnosis, altering the course of their lives. Together, they will open up about their journey, offering insights into the daily realities of living with Crohn's. With unwavering courage and a commitment to thriving despite the hurdles, Michelle and Mason share their experiences, showcasing not only their toughness, but also the strength that binds them together. You'll also hear Mason explain why he feels his diagnosis is a gift and what he considers to be a victory. Their podcast, IBDetermined, is a beacon of support for others on similar paths. Join us as we delve into their remarkable story, discovering the triumphs, challenges, and the indomitable spirit that defines their journey. I have 2 very special people with me here today. Normally, I just interview a parent or a teacher or educator, but today I have parent and child here today that we're going to talk with, and probably shouldn't call him a child. He's 14 years old. He could probably beat me in a fair fight, so I'm not going to call him a child. But I've got Michelle and Mason Harvey with me from California, and they're going to be talking about something today that we haven't talked about on the show yet. And I want you to hear their story and find out some things about them. So, guys, good to see you all the way from California. Welcome to the show. Glad we was able to connect.
Yes, thank you for having us. We've been very excited to do this.
Oh, good to be here. Yeah, it's good to be anywhere, isn't it?
It sure is, especially when it's not the hospital. Anything that's not the hospital at this point, we're happy.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Michelle, if you don't mind taking the lead on this just for a couple of minutes, kind of get us through. Tell us what was going on with Mason, what you were seeing, and what that led up to with the diagnosis, and then let's just peel the cover back on that and find out some things.
Sure. So Mason was diagnosed in June of 2020, and we had gone to a doctor's appointment, and she had noticed some things. Mason, they had done a hemoglobin test, and he was low on it. And her recommendation was to go to the hospital and get some more testing, because there's also other symptoms. Mason's growth had slowed down. He was losing weight. And there's, a couple other issues, restroom situations too. And I'll try to be as, tactful as Mason's pretty open with everything, but so there's a few other things kind of going on. So she said we should go get some testing. So we packed an overnight bag, went to the hospital, and we were there for 2 months. And we had no idea that was going to happen. We thought they'd do a few tests, and we didn't know there was going to be a diagnosis that there was. So the actual diagnosis was Crohn's disease, and that took about 9 days to receive. And he had a first diagnosis that they had detected something with his heart that ended up thankfully not being, it was like a misdiagnosis, but that was the first thing. Okay. And thankfully that was okay. That ended up being okay. But the Crohn's diagnosis was the big deal. And I think when they mentioned, unfortunately it was not. Yeah, unfortunately it was accurate. And it was something we had no idea what it was. So when they told me that my son had Crohn's disease, what's that?
Yeah.
And I think my second question was, is there a cure? Is this something that we just treat? Like how does this work? So it was a little complicated because he needed to have blood transfusions. And that was because that low hemoglobin, he had anemia. And his body, part of Crohn's disease is that the body doesn't absorb nutrients correctly when you have that inflammation. And so Mason needed the blood transfusions to bring those levels back up. And then they decided to put him onto something called gut rest. So for about 4 weeks, he couldn't eat or drink anything. He was fed through a line in his arm.
Wow.
And
Okay.
yeah, that was fun, huh?
No, it wasn't fun at all.
No.
It was necessary, though. It was necessary.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why we had such a long stay, is we had to do all these little other things to kind of get him stable to go home and then proceed forward with the diagnosis, just going in for treatments after that. But the answer to our question from the doctors was it was not curable. And there were treatments. At the time, we thought there was like a treatment they knew that would help make it better. And we found out there wasn't. They kind of throw everything at it. And
it's a guessing game.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And then we just kind of got to hope that we find the right treatment. And even after you find a treatment that is working, it's still a continual adjustment of the medications and things like that. So yeah, so it took about 2 months till we got to go home, and I didn't leave his side. My husband didn't as well. He slept in our car in a parking lot for a month. And while because at the time it was heavy into COVID. It was in the very beginning of COVID. And so they wouldn't allow both parents. Right. Yeah, it was a stressful time.
Stressful.
Wow.
So basically his father and I would switch places to make sure we were with him, one at night, one during the day. And then after those 2 months, we got to go home and start our journey officially.
With Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
Out of the hospital.
On our own.
Yeah.
With the doctor's support, but out of the hospital, thankfully.
Well, what does it look like when, I mean, this is not a constant thing. I mean, it from what I understand about it, it's kind of like a roller coaster.
Yes.
Have good days, real good days, and then something happens to trigger it. And
Yes.
Just really bad days in a row.
You're in
a few days in a row.
Yeah.
A flare. It's a flare. Mhm.
Called a flare, right? What
Right.
does that look like?
So okay, there's no really good way to describe it because it's different for everyone. But for me specifically, I'll be having a really good day. I'm able to do everything I want. Just
Eat
fun.
normal. You're able to eat normal.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And then a few days later, I can be in a flare. And if I'm in a flare, sometimes I'll have joint pain, and I don't really want to move, because my joints hurt. And then when you're in a flare, you have to be careful with what you eat because you don't want to harm your intestines any more than they already harmed. You want to help them to get out of the flare. And you just have to be more careful while you're in a flare.
Okay. Are there certain foods that trigger it, have you found, or certain activities, or does it just come out of the blue, or all that?
I think all of that, actually. I was going to say a combo.
I haven't really found a food that triggers it quite yet, but there might be something tied with that. And it can come out of the blue, and you don't expect it.
Stress is sometimes stress. They've figured is a trigger for some people. If you are in
a flare and you're having stress because of the flare, that can lead to the flare progressively getting worse.
Yeah.
And it's also like for him, he's on biologics, so his treatments are keeping his symptoms at bay to where he can't eat anything he would like, and so he's pretty fortunate with that. But sometimes, like the doctors right now, we're undergoing testing to see why he's still flaring, and then he's so stable. Because typically when you're on a good biologic
and you're so stable,
you're in remission for a bit of time. And so it's because it's an autoimmune disease, but it could be recategorized too. I think it's going to change in the upcoming years because so many more people are being diagnosed, but it goes in so many different directions. But so basically it's like your immune system. It's like the body's attacking itself, and it thinks that there's a problem in the gastrointestinal tract. So pretty much anywhere from mouth to the other end, it's anything is fair game. Yeah, anything is fair game. And the eyes.
Wow.
The eyes are also affected. skin. So yeah, so it's, we have a lot of doctors we see to keep an eye on things that we're unaware of.
Well, we're hearing more and more about how important gut health is.
Yes.
Having the right things in your gut, and when your gut is not healthy, then it affects other parts of your body, your skin, your hair. You said your eyes and stuff like that, and we don't think about that when we're eating that cheeseburger or that hot dog or that lasagna or that,
right.
We don't think about all that until we're like, I've got a problem.
Yeah.
What was it that I ate?
Yeah. And I'm sure you've done that too. You feel it coming on and you're like, okay, what did I do?
Yes, and we actually have a food log. We record everything sometimes to see if we can track something, to see if there was anything. Yeah, so we will take notes on what he eats, what he drinks, what he's taking, to see if there's, and because different people with this disease can be affected very differently. For him, he does pretty well with diet, but it could change in the future. It's a progressive disease, so it's just constant monitoring, kind of keeping an eye on it, see what it'll do.
Now, Michelle, I'm a parent. You're a parent. My wife and I are the parents to two special needs kids, and have two special needs grandsons. So we know, kind of from the parent part of it, what were you thinking when, or what was going through that mama's mind when your son got diagnosed with something you knew absolutely nothing about, and they told you, oh yeah, by the way, we don't know, there's no way to fix it?
Yeah, it was, to me, the best way to explain is I think I was grieving. I immediately I was realizing that our life was about to change. Yeah. And I realized that I can't help my son. There's nothing I can do to change this diagnosis. So it was a lot of feelings of loss of control, of being able to help him. And then it was just a lot of sadness for what is his future going to look like? What is, we had envisioned so many things, and you never know when life is going to change. I think that's an important lesson too in all of this. And so for me, I was very sad. I was very upset, and I just watched him in so much pain. And, it was like, okay, I have to do whatever I can to help him. And so that kind of became my priority, was to help him and keep him mentally healthy too.
Sure.
And so it was a change for sure.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. As parents, we have these dreams and aspirations, and we have these ideas in our mind of what our kids are going to be like and what life's going to be like. Yep. And then when all that's pulled out from under us, you described it right. There is a period of grief because the life that we wanted is not here anymore.
Right. It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
And it'll never be. We'll never be able to put our hands on it. But once we get through that, and I'm not saying that grief ever leaves, but once we get through it and we manage it, then we were able to grasp onto, okay, let's see what we need to do.
Right.
What are our options? What direction do we need to take? And we become an advocate right then at that point.
I agree with that 100%. I think that's the turning point.
Yeah, absolutely. Mason, what was going through your mind? You were about 10 or 11 years old, I think.
He had just turned 11. He had just turned 11.
Did you understand a lot of what was going on, or did you just know that something wasn't right, or what was?
At the time when I was diagnosed, I didn't really know what Crohn's was, so I didn't really know what was quite in store for this roller coaster of life. Yeah. But I feel like when they said you have to get biologics for the rest of your life, because I was saying, maybe they have a cure, maybe they have
a pill you can just take.
You can just take daily or something to help your disease. No, you have to go to the hospital every few weeks and get an infusion or a shot or whatever you need to help the disease. And it feels like you're not really in control of anything. So, like you said, that you can't really control your life.
Yeah.
That's
And
how I felt when I was first diagnosed, but I mean, now I'm feeling great.
Now you have a very different
Yeah.
outlook when people ask
Yeah.
you a few of these questions, I think.
Yeah.
You've come a long way.
If someone asking me how I felt about Crohn's disease currently, I'd say it's almost like a gift, because the people I've met along the way because of Crohn's disease, I wouldn't have met them because of Crohn's disease.
Oh, absolutely.
The amount of things I've came out of this, I wouldn't have came out of it if I didn't have it. It's just like amazing, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's beyond words.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were made for such a time as this, and it's time to make that a reality for so many people. Michelle, while we're talking about supporting him, supporting Mason, how have you empowered Mason to pursue his goals despite the challenges of living with Crohn's disease?
Well, I think one of the first things that I discovered was he liked to speak about it. And once I knew he wanted to talk about it publicly, I reached out to our Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and there's a Legacy Foundation as well that we're in touch with, and he started speaking with them publicly. Also the San Diego Blood Bank. So I started finding these connections where he had outlets where he could talk to people and feel heard, and also feel like he was also having a part in finding a cure, finding better treatment. So making sure he felt that he was playing some role in helping others and himself was very important. And so we did that. We also published a book together about his journey.
About my journey through Crohn's disease.
Yes, not your average slice of pizza. And so
Not your average slice.
right. And it's about a pizza who becomes basically like allergic to himself. So it's a brief, not a very medically accurate, but it kind of describes autoimmune disease, anything like that. So we did that for kids, and we donate into our hospital. We do sell them, but we wanted to do something to hand to a child if they were diagnosed, or to a family member with kids, to help them understand what an adult might be going through. So that was a big step for us, publishing that. And then we also went to work on finding people we could help online. We started a podcast because we realized there was a whole community out there that might be interested in feeling, not only hearing about this disease, but feeling supported, not feeling alone out there. It's very isolating, as you probably know too. It can feel like, okay, we're alone in this. And I didn't want others to feel like that, because I looked back to how I felt when he was diagnosed and how he felt. And I'm like, okay, what would we have needed? What would have been great for us to have? And so we took all these kind of elements, and I put it all together and just thought, I'm going to support him. We're going to, we had a business, Karmatude Candles. We sell candles.
At the time it was Good Karma Candles, but now it's Karmatude
Right.
Candles.
We changed we raised funds with those to go towards the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. So basically it was just kind of, trying to find control in an uncontrollable situation was how we empowered him, is giving him that feeling he had some control in this.
Well, I think you have to do that. I think that's important, because when that diagnosis rolls across, you've lost control. And you've got to get control of something. You've got to feel like you're in control of something. And so that's great that what you're doing. Actually, I found you guys through the podcast. And we're going to talk about that before we get through today. But that's how I stumbled across you guys, and I listened to. I binged on the first 6 episodes to get caught up on what was going on. And so if you have any, when you check your stats, the one from Hickville, Alabama, that's me. That's the one.
You.
That's me.
We will know now. We will check.
That's me. Let's talk about celebrating some victories. It hasn't been all doom and gloom. It hadn't been all pain and all of that. There's been some victories along the way. How do you approach celebrating the small victories in Mason's life and in his health journey?
So I feel like what I count as a victory, it would be like getting a shot or getting an infusion, and then getting back home, because it's like a little victory that you're not looking forward to because it's a shot or it's an infusion.
It's painful.
Yeah, it's painful. So I kind of think of it as a victory when you're finished with those. So those are like small little victories. Or
Yeah.
there's other things like
I think just being able to walk around,
walk around and not have,
being able to swing a golf club
Yeah.
again.
not having sore joints.
Yeah, little
Yeah.
things.
Getting out of the hospital.
Yeah, because that's what we started having to do, is looking at like the small progress. It didn't
Yeah.
matter what it was, and just making it a good day and turning it, thinking positive. So, sometimes celebrating is just a mindset for us, and sometimes it is a reward. Like for Mason, sometimes when he overcomes something that is a challenge for him, or that is there's a procedure or something, and we try and have incentive, not a bribe, but but an incentive to something for him to look forward to, and also we take everything kind of just one day at a time and try to focus. One wave at a time is kind of our motto, right? Instead of focusing on the big picture, you focus on one thing at a time.
If you think of everything at once, that can cause a lot of stress.
It's overwhelming. It can become overwhelming. So, so we just try to be happy in the moment and enjoy the day, and not think too much about what tomorrow might bring, because none of us know. There's no guarantees for any of us in life.
Not a one.
No.
Mason, you mentioned the infusions. When you do those on a regular basis?
Yes, infusions and shots. Infusions and shots.
So your infusions are IV, right? That's an IV.
IV, and the shots are, what's the term for them?
It's injection.
Injections, yeah.
Yeah, but you do the, go ahead, you can tell your time frame.
How long do well, that's what I was going to ask. How long do the infusions last when you have those?
So like every 4 weeks, I have to get an infusion. So I go to the hospital every 4 weeks for an infusion. And then for the injection, I get every 4 weeks as well. So I go to the hospital every 4 weeks for those. So together I'm going to the hospital every 2 weeks for treatments.
Right. And in an infusion, we're there usually for a few hours. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The IV, and they have to order the stuff for the IV. Then they have to get the IV in.
They do labs and
all that stuff. Then they have to flush the IV to get all the stuff through. So yeah, it's a whole process.
Okay. Yeah, infusions are becoming more and more an active role in people's treatments these days for various types of situations. But I was just curious as to how they did yours. You've probably made some friends with the nurses and doctors there, hadn't you?
Oh yeah. They almost become like family.
Yeah. He looks forward to seeing them. Yeah. So we bring them treats too. Not bribes, but incentives.
That takes a lot of the stress out of it too, I would think.
Yeah, because they're not someone you don't know. You recognize them from the other times, and they recognize you, and they're friendly, and that they're really good at doing the IVs, or
you built the trust.
With them, so you're not afraid.
That's great.
You have to trust a person giving you the treatment.
Yeah. If you're going to be sticking that in my body, I need to trust you.
100%.
100%.
I agree.
Yeah. I got to be able to trust you, no doubt. And that's one thing we've learned, we learned over our journey with our kids. Our youngest one passed away in 2015 from his genetic disorder, but he would have hospital stays 2 to 3 weeks at a time when he would have an episode.
Yeah.
And go in, and we knew all the NICU nurses, the step down nurses, the respiratory doctors. We knew them all by first name by the time we were through there. So you build those relationships, and you learn to trust them, and that's big for a parent. A parent's got to be able to trust the medical team.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I agree with that 100%. You mentioned earlier about making it day by day. And I want to ask both of you how you deal with that. But Mason, I want to ask you first, how do you maintain a day-to-day focus to stay focused on your journey with Crohn's disease? And do you have any advice that you would give someone that is going through that right now.
So I say like focus at one thing at a time. But like a good way to do that is just focus on the day, focus on what you're doing at the moment, not what you're going to be doing all day. Or you can look forward to what you're going to do at night, like maybe watch a show. There'll be a little reward at the end of the day for getting through the day. And and for me, like at the end of the day, I know I've gotten everything done. You can feel proud of yourself, and then the next day you wake up and you don't have to worry about the things you did yesterday, and it's just the new things the next day, and then just keep doing it over and over. But they all feel like smaller little tasks because you're not focusing on them all at once.
It's a whole lot easier to get through it if you break it down like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the way I worded that wasn't great, but I mean, it worked.
That's everybody that you're talking to. They know exactly what you said. They know exactly what you meant.
You're not perfect.
Because when you're in an airplane and you're up at like 30,000 feet, it can be overwhelming. But if you do what you said and break it down, okay, I got to be at the hospital at 10 o'clock this morning. I've got my routine I've got to do before I get there. I know what they're going to do when I get there. I know how long I'm going to be there. And then when it's over with, I know I'm going to be going home. So if you break it down like that, I would think that would take some of that stress trigger out of it instead of thinking, oh my God, I got to go to the hospital and be there all day.
Right.
Actually, another good way I do things is I think of what I'm doing after that. So like maybe just relaxing, or like I said, nighttime you get to watch a show or something, or hang out with your family and stuff like that. But I always think of what I'm doing after and not stressing about what I'm going to be doing that is potentially stressful. So you don't have to build up stress about that one thing.
Sure. Yeah. Do the treatments fatigue you any at all? Does it wear you out?
The treatments don't wear me out, but I do get Benadryl before the infusion, so that does
it knocks me
tired. Yeah, so on the way home I'll sleep a bit, but the treatment itself isn't me fatigue.
Okay.
You'll get little side effects, sore throat,
sore throat sometimes,
stuffy nose sometimes. But you bounce back pretty quick. Some people get very fatigued, but this one, his energy, the Benadryl hours. Once the Benadryl wears off, he's like,
wears out, I'm good.
Yep.
Sleep through the best part of it. There you go. Michelle, how do you stay on task? How do you handle the mother part of it, the caregiver part of it, and keep him on task too on those days that he wants to stray a little bit? How does all that work?
Yeah, it was not something that came with a manual, that's for sure. And No, and when he was first diagnosed, I was fortunate enough to have someone local who's a bit of a celebrity that has IBD reach out to me. His name's Rolf Benershka, and he was a former kicker for the San Diego Chargers, and he was diagnosed with IBD, and he called me when Mason was hospitalized. He'd heard about it, and he was the one who said the one wave at a time. He's like, because I was overwhelmed. I was looking at everything, and so he gave me the advice, you can't take every single wave. You have to choose one, then go back out, choose the next wave. And so from that point forward, what I've done with him is, as you know, it sometimes is a lot of information you're getting. It's a lot of tough information, a lot of decisions, a lot of insurance issues. You have to figure out, okay, we're going to go with this treatment. Now we have to get it authorized financially, and life goes on. You have to work. And so for me, it's kind of compartmentalizing all of this and saying, all right, what is the most important thing that I need to focus on today? And then kind of do that mental checklist, check off the one, go to the next one, and just kind of continue on. And it keeps me focused on what I need to be focused on and the most important things instead of looking at everything and thinking, oh my gosh. And because then you become kind of paralyzed when you have too much and you don't want to do anything. So it's like, then you don't do anything.
Yeah. You want to just pull the covers up over your head and just, I can't do it today. Yeah. Yeah. It's very easy to get overwhelmed when you're having to juggle all those. You mentioned insurance, and I read something. I don't remember if it was, it might have been on one of the social media posts that you guys made, but you guys you guys went through an insurance struggle to get some treatment or medication. Fill in the blanks on that and tell us about that.
Yeah. So with this disease, and I'm assuming a lot of others for children, sometimes treatments aren't approved for kids. And so a lot of the treatments we're receiving are approved for adults. So whenever something that, even though the doctor's saying this is what Mason needs,
So
insurance.
An example of that would be that I'm on dual biologics, and that works for me really well, but it's not technically certified for children quite yet.
Or really adults. So there's not enough. Being tested. So when the doctor wants to fight for something, there's not a whole lot of research out there saying that this is safe for kids. And so insurance usually says they're going to say no. The first time that you ask for it, they're automatically going to deny something. So we always expect a denial. And then we know the process. You have to go through appeals. And the worst one, I mean, we've gone through several of these. The worst one, though, was it took us 3 weeks. They took him off of a medication he was on. They didn't renew it. And we had to fight to get it. Took 3 weeks, and then he ended up having a flare afterwards. Not sure if that just happened from the lack of medication. I mean, I have my thoughts on that, but
I think that's pretty sure.
But thankfully we have a doctor that's very aggressive as well. And so it can be very upsetting when something is working and all of a sudden insurance wants to change that or doesn't want to pay for it anymore. They're very expensive treatments. I
can't blame them.
Yeah, I mean, Mason is on too, which is rare for adults, and it's even more rare for kids. And thankfully we had a whole system we went through. We, figured out the best way to fight for it. And we were fortunate enough to be one of the ones who got it within 3 weeks. Some people never get approved again. And it's a tough, so I'm thankful we got it, but it's like a full-time job battling insurance. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I've got a friend that's a cancer survivor, and his maintenance medicine every month is like $15,000 a month if he had to pay for it out of pocket.
Right.
So and I'm sure the medications that you guys are having to use for Mason, they're not. You can't get those at Dollar General either. I mean, those are expensive routes to take.
It's so for us, for Mason. So every 4 weeks, do you remember what your Stelara injection is?
Nope, and I probably don't.
$28,000 is Stelara, and that's every 4 weeks. And then for the infusion, for the Entyvio, which is every 4 weeks, it's like around $34,000, $36,000. So,
and then you also have to pay for like the visit.
But that's all,
Not as much.
But I mean, it's over $60,000 a month for just his 2 biologics. Wow. So insurance isn't going to be thrilled with us.
Well, no, and their job is to make as much money as they can, and so you've got to understand the business aspect of it. But then when it gets down to where you guys are at, I applaud the fact that you guys have got some things changed and got it worked out to where he can get those meds.
Yeah.
Because they're definitely lifesavers. No doubt about it.
They are. That without it, his quality of life would be far different, and he'd be very ill. And so it's amazing to me that they can even deny a child when a doctor is saying they need this to survive. That insurance can still say no to that.
They just deny someone's life.
Was that their main reason for the denial? Is because it was an adult medication and he was considered a child at that point?
Yeah, so we'd already faced denials because Stelara is supposed to be every 8 weeks and Entyvio is every 8 weeks. Those are FDA approved, and that's for over 18. So we had already faced a process to get one approved at 4 weeks because we had to change. We had to get approved at 8 weeks, then we had to get it changed to 4 weeks, and so we had gone through all that. And then when the doctor added a second biologic, that was when they said, "Hold on, this is
way too much.
Way too much. There's not enough evidence to support this." And they are not approved. It's not approved for children. So we have a doctor we are fortunate enough where she pulled articles, she pulled research, she did her homework and fought hard to demonstrate why for Mason, he's a hard to treat patient. And this was a necessary step. And now we have the evidence because he's doing so well. Yeah. But at the time we didn't have that yet. So it was a lot more challenging than it would be right now to get it approved.
So how long has he been doing the injections and the infusions? Did that start right after the diagnosis, or was that?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So he was immediately started on an infusion. It was infliximab, which is Remicade, and that failed. And so that was the first drug that didn't work for him. And then we went on to Stelara, and it worked pretty well. And that was end of 2020 when he started Stelara. And we added Entyvio at the end of 2021. So since then, since 2021, the end of around December, he's been on both biologics. So about 2 years. We just hit the 2-year mark. Yeah.
Okay. All right. You're expensive, kid. You're worth a lot of money.
I know. We always joke whenever the UPS driver drives up with his injection. I'm thinking, does he know what he's delivering? That's more expensive than a car.
I bet they insured that package, no doubt.
Yeah,
No
special
doubt.
treatment.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Let's kind of take the light off you guys for a minute, and let's look at some at the other folks that may be listening, or that knows folks that are going through IBD or Crohn's disease. Michelle, what resources or methods have you found helpful in educating yourself about Crohn's disease and being able to pass that education off to others?
Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is the number one source, I would say, to go to. They have a great website. They also have, you can reach out to them. They have chapters all over. And so they are one of the best resources. Something else I have found are support groups. So Facebook has some great support groups that you can reach out to. Again, they're not doctors, but they are parents who can you can kind of bounce things off of. You can hear what other treatments, what other ones they're using, and also his doctor. We trust her. Also, we're very fortunate that I have someone I can reach out to her anytime. She's always willing to educate me and talk to me about things. And then I spend a lot of time. I read up on what he's taking and learn about these treatments and learn about how they're treating it. So I've tried to get to the science behind it so I understand this disease better and why, when they say this will work for him or this may not work, why that is. So so it's just, I do a lot of reading, a lot of online research, and but as far as support goes, I think Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is great. We work very closely with our local chapter too. So they're a very good resource. And
there should be chapters all over the country that folks can get plugged into.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And that's one thing my wife and I have learned is support is huge.
Yeah.
Especially right out of the gate when you're dealing with something that you have no clue how to deal with it. Talking to people that have been there, done that, got the T-shirt. They can tell you, okay, you need to do this. You need to do this. Don't get been out of shape about this. Let's worry about this. So all that it's like a mentorship to get you through that. So while we're talking about that, Michelle, what advice would you have for parents who may be navigating the challenges of raising a child with Crohn's disease?
I would look into your options for school as far as IEPs and 504 plans. Those are very important to look to. Mason is homeschooled, so he's
which is very helpful.
Yeah, very lucky kid. So he doesn't miss any school. But I know for other parents, it is something that they're not always aware of, that Crohn's will qualify for this. So it's very important to talk to your doctor and talk to your school to get what you need to make sure your child is comfortable and taken care of at school, so they can continue with their education. And the other thing is, him and I, we have a very open communication. We got him, we do have a therapist. We did put him in therapy right away. But I always encourage him to tell me anything, and just
there's no reason to hide anything.
Right.
You want yourself to be healthy. You don't want to get more sick. And by hiding things, they can't help.
Right.
So you just get more sick.
Right.
So it's open communication. And I also, I do trust him. I believe him. I don't ever make him feel like he's being dramatic or, it's like, talk to me. And, and so we have a mutual respect with that as well, but he's also a great kid. And I think I'm very lucky in a lot of ways. I feel like it's just,
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's tough enough raising a kid, let alone a teenager. You get to, so, and we have one. He's our one and done. So we've got one child, and I'm thinking, okay, now we're getting to the teenage years, and so so it's ever changing. But I think, and I also think it's important for other parents to reach out to other parents. Like you were saying, that support group and having someone else just be on the other side of something where you're in the thick of it and you're in the part where it's just, you don't know anything, don't know what's going to happen. You feel like life is just over as you knew it. Yeah. And then you get to talk to somebody who's like, hey, it gets better. It's not going to be the same as it was, but it's going to be, it's going to get better. And so it is important for parents to reach out to other parents and have someone you can talk to. That's very important because caregivers, we need to vent. We need to get things off our chest too and talk about it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So having those resources just to make sure you're getting the support you need is very important, whatever that may look like, therapy that, may look like a good friend or online support groups. But yeah, I think that's really important too for caregivers. Take care of your own health too.
Yeah. Self-care and respite care and all that is so important because you do not know how tiring being a caregiver is. Right. Until you're there.
Right.
And until you find yourself just wanting to go outside and scream some days and then come back in, hit reset. Okay, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mason, as someone that's on this journey with Crohn's disease, what advice would you have for somebody that's going through it?
Just focus on what things you look forward to. It's hard to kind of say what to focus on because I know when I was first diagnosed, it was hard to focus on a lot of things because you're focusing on the diagnosis.
Right.
But
maybe you gotta find
the future.
You gotta find what fuels you.
Yeah, what fuels you,
and what
you can do, what you want to do. The possible is how you'll feel in the future because there's a chance that you're gonna find a biologic that's gonna help you and you're gonna feel a lot better. And what you're going through is just at the moment, and it's not gonna be like that forever. Just think of the future, and it's not always gonna be like this.
Those are good words to live by for sure. Let's spend the last few minutes we've got here. I've got probably 8 pages of questions here, and we could talk till.
I know we could keep doing this forever.
Yeah.
We could be a great time.
We would be the only 3 left by the time we got through. Let's talk about the podcast. I know my why. I know why I got started. What is your why? Why in the world did you want to jump into this crazy? Oh my goodness! You're already on one roller coaster ride. Let's get on another one.
Right? Why not?
Yeah, why not? What is your why with the podcast? First, tell the folks what your podcast is and where they can find it, and then why? Why do you want to do that?
Sure.
So it's called IBDetermined, and you can tell them where you can find it.
Yeah. So like IBD, which IBDetermined. Yeah. So it's like literally, And we're on YouTube. You can
as someone that studied marketing, that is genius. Let me just go ahead and tell you.
I know we're pretty proud of ourselves. Like that,
man, yeah.
We used it as our team name first when we would do fundraisers. And we're like, hey, that'd be a great name for a podcast.
So you have an audio podcast and a YouTube.
We do. So you can, so I guess we'll start with, so if you want to just like, for people who just listen and like to listen to us, we're hosted through Buzzsprout. So we usually we have a link there where it shows all the different places we play, but we're like on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, all those locations. And, you search us, you should be able to find us on there. And we thought, some people might prefer to watch us talk. I don't know if that were,
things you can connect more. You can understand.
I don't know that we're that exciting looking or anything like that. We don't have but we thought, yeah. So we decided, well, if we're going to get this, let's try and record this too. So we record audio and video together. We play that on. So that's on YouTube. That's IBDetermined on YouTube as well. So yeah.
Well, yeah, you guys look good, and you have a face for YouTube. Y'all can pull that off.
We have good lighting.
Yeah.
I got to have that filter.
I know.
I need that filter. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I am just doing audio right now for obvious reasons. But,
you should try it. You got to try the video. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm on some videos, but not doing this. Not doing this.
Oh, it's a whole other level.
It is. It's a whole, that's another roller coaster.
It is.
Is the video the same as the podcast? It's just
Yes.
the video version of that. It's not any different content or less content or anything like that. Okay.
No, pretty simple.
Okay.
Yeah, we were. It was all a learning curve for us, and it was just like, well, we're not going to get too fancy with it. We may in the future, but right now it's all just very straightforward. So what you're going to hear is what you're going to see. So same thing.
Awesome. Well, I thank you guys so much for coming on here today. It went exactly like I thought it would. You guys would just get on here and just be real and share your story, and so easy to talk with. And folks, let me encourage you to find this podcast, find IBDetermined, and go back to the very beginning. I think y'all are like 22 episodes now or something like that.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah. So y'all are just, there's that y'all again. I told you to be ready for
I
it.
know. We like it, though. I love it.
Yeah. You guys are a few episodes ahead of me in number, but yeah, I encourage the listeners, go find them and listen to them. Go all the way back to episode 1 and just take some time. They're not lengthy. They're not 1-2 hour broadcasts. And you can binge watch and listen to a bunch of them, and get a lot there. Y'all are dropping a lot of good nuggets on those podcasts.
Good. It's good to know. Yeah. And we're always encouraging people to reach out and tell us what they want to hear about, because we're like, hopefully this is what people want to hear about. I mean, we enjoy it. This is what we want to talk about, but you know,
something they want to hear.
Yeah. So
awesome. Well, I'll have all that information, links to the podcast and YouTube. I'll have that in the show notes for folks to click on and find you guys. But thank y'all so much, and I wish you all the best. And you have gotten through 100% of your bad days.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
You're undefeated on the bad days.
Yeah,
and so just think of that next time that roller coaster starts going down. Just think, I've got a perfect batting record here. I'm going to get hit. You know?
Yep. We'll go up again.
That's right. Down. That's right.
Yep.
Well, stay in touch, guys. I appreciate you being on the show, and look forward to your story helping folks.
Thank you for having us. We're happy to be here. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Before we go, I want to thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. If you are the parent of a special needs child and wish to share your story with us or know someone we should talk with on the show, send an email to exceptionalstoriespodcast@gmail.com. If you've been enjoying the show, we'd love to hear from you. If you can take a minute, just leave us a 5-star rating on your preferred podcast platform. It would mean the world to us. Your ratings help us reach more listeners and continue to bring the quality content that you've learned to enjoy. I also want to invite you to follow us on our social media pages. You can find us on both Facebook and Instagram at Exceptional Stories Podcast. Lastly, if you found this podcast informative and you would like to keep it going, go to our website at www.exceptionalstoriespodcast.com. Click on the support button on our homepage. For as little as $3 per month, you can play an active role in making sure these stories are heard. Thank you for choosing to spend your precious time with us. Remember, you're not alone. Together, we'll create a world that embraces and supports every exceptional story. Until next week, be blessed.